Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Review. Hi everybody, welcome to another recommendations video. So, as you can tell by the title, this is going to be kind of books with less heat to them. So, in reference to my spice scale, which I did talk about on a fantasy video I did where it was Fantasy Recs by Steam scale. Now, I know people have asked for different versions of that. They want me to do it with Mafia, they want me to do it with XOXO, they want me to do it. I prefer not to because it's a lot of work to do that. I recommend my books and I tell you where they sit on my spice scale. Doing it with fantasy, I think was good. Doing it with historical, I think is good. But I don't want to do that in every subgenre and for every trope to do spice scale stuff. Like that's getting a little too niche and a little too finicky with things. But I do know that my channel isn't always, well, I mean, I hope I'm always welcoming. I mean, it isn't always specifically meant for my viewers who like lower spice. Now, I would never chase anyone away, but I know not everyone likes to read at the level, and how do I say this? With the level's the wrong thing. It makes it sound like you're a lower level when I say lower level spice. I'm not saying anyone's at a lower reading level. That sounded weird. So this video, anyway, I want to focus on books that I think are on the lower half of my spice scale. Now, that doesn't mean that there is completely closed door. In fact, there's only really like one series that I'll be sharing that is like 90% closed door. The rest, they're going to sit around a 2 on my spice scale, but I am going up even a little bit to 2.5. So this video is going to be focused on 2.5 downward on the spice scale. But these are still all going to be books that I really enjoyed and that I gave 4 stars or higher to. Okay. There's stories where I think an author really shines and not just relying on heat. And there's some authors who specifically just don't like to write as much heat anymore. We'll talk about that author right away because that is the first one on here. I also have one on this list that I think will surprise people because of how it's advertised. Well, not even how it's advertised, of how it's spoken about on BookTok, BookTube, and things like that. I think it may shock some people who assume based on that it's some super spicy story, and we'll get into that. But before I fully get into it, let me just remind you on my personal spice scale what I consider a 2.5 or less, okay? So the difference between a 2 and a 3 on mine is this. So a 2 says the deed is done, but it is very delayed in the story. So the first sex scene is later on, and there's not more than 2 scenes, maybe some flowery language used for the body parts. So instead of, like cock and pussy, maybe we're using other ones. Yes, I just said those. I sure did. And only more conventional sexual positions usually. So a little more vanilla, but that doesn't mean the love is any less, right? Now for me, a 3 on my spice scale, again, where a lot of things sit these days, what I read the most, says things are happening and it's a bit more graphic. It may happen sooner, maybe more often. Maybe a spank or a tickle, and by this I mean maybe a little bit of kinky gets in, like holding the wrist or the throat. The wording is still more romantic than erotic, and maybe more positions or some dirty talk, okay? So that's a 3. So when I'm talking 2.5 or less, it means that, maybe it crosses over a little bit into some like coarser type of language, maybe more than 2 scenes, but we're still not talking about any level of like this being focused on the sex in the story or anything like that, okay? Now, again, there's no shame to any of that. I just want to provide options for everyone who's found my channel. I know I have readers who like all kinds, and a lot of times the taboo recs, the really spicy recs, all of those things, people are willing to try those if I say I truly like the story. But it isn't always what they're looking for. So I like to provide something for everyone. So just one more time to reiterate, I'm not saying these stories are better than others because the author focuses more on the romance than on the steam. I don't think that. I don't think books are bad because an author does that. This is just a preference for some people and for those who want to go into the book and know they're not going to get surprised by anything more. So Again, this will be to the best of my recollection though, and a lot of these are based on, you know, the notes that I took when I read them and my personal preference, okay? So based on what I've written on my scale is how I see these scenes, okay? So do you, some of these might still be too spicy for you, but I can only go off of myself. All right, so enough of that. We will start eliminating this though, because I do have some notes for a few of the books. The author we're starting with is one that a lot of you probably thought I would start with if you know this channel, and that is Claire Kingsley, and specifically with her Haven series. Now, I've mentioned this multiple times, what led to this, but I'll say it one more time in case this is the first video of mine that you're seeing. So Claire Kingsley has been an author for a long time, and she used to write a bit spicier, raunchier of stories. Ooh, see the air went off there for a moment. However, in, I believe the year, was it 2020 or 2021? I'm not sure at this point. I don't know if she puts it in her author bio. But she lost her husband very suddenly. And after he died, oh, I'm not going to cry about Claire Kingsley today. When he died, she still had one book left in her Bailey Brothers series. And she did not put out a book for quite a while. I don't know if it was a year and a half, which even to me, I'm like, good for her. And with that book, she did finish it off at the same, shall we say, like spice level as she'd done. But then she has transferred away from that. And she started by doing How the Grump Saved Christmas, or I can't remember the full thing of it, where she started to kind of make things a bit more closed door. And that book was really fun and it worked. And when she was going for the Haven Brothers, which we were very excited about, she straight up did a post and explained that for her at this time, writing intimate scenes, getting in that mindset was very hard because she was like, I lost my Prince Charming, the one who, you know, maybe was her inspiration, and it was making her sad to write that, okay? I know I'm going into full explanation. They won't all be this deep, but I just want to share like that I was nervous to switch to these, okay? I will just say it. At that time, too, I wanted more heat in my books, and I didn't know. But she gave it a go with the Haven Brothers, and she still has written the story in all the same way she did. She just does tend to lead us away from the bedroom a bit more. So these books, I wouldn't call them completely closed door, although I will say, like, the first book is the most closed door. We still kind of like know what's happening. I'd say the door is like cracked. There still is some language used around the body parts. And she does have some like up to the level of like foreplay and even some orgasms on page. But she does tend to now like gloss over a little bit, okay? So again, for each books we're talking about, I'm not going to go into that level of detail. We're not going to do that. It's going to be what the books are about. But I love Claire Kingsley's books. So far there are 4 books out in the Haven Brothers. I actually have 3 of them currently. And these are small town suspense, which I think was really clever because it gives us something else to focus on, while them still fully being like, the romance is still absolutely there. That she does a great job with the suspense plot. So first up, we have Obsession Falls. I won't go into too much detail about these because I have a lot of books to get through. But this is the first one that kicked it off. And this one is, so we're still in Tillicum, right? And this one is Josiah Haven and Audrey Young. And so this one is she's moved back to Tillicum. She is a like kind of a journalist. She's working at the newspaper in town. And I believe she is her landlord, if I remember. She has a cute little dog. And yeah, Josiah is her landlord, and they kind of get off to a bad start. And she also is being kind of stalked in this. And so that is what the like suspense element is for this one. So yeah, I love these covers, by the way. They're so beautiful for not being couple covers. Like, I love it. So this one says he'll risk it all to protect her. So this is Josiah Haven. Second up is Storms and Secrets. And I don't fully remember this one. I didn't pull this one up. But this one, I believe it has to do with a like sex trafficking ring or kidnapping ring is what this one is. And that one was a good time. I had fun with that one. Then there was Temptation Trails. And this one, I think, is my favorite in the series thus far, because this one is single dad Garrett, who he has a teenage son. And he is a police officer, and he's also the detective in their town or whatever. And so he has a lot of stuff on his plate. And one of his aunts is trying to set him up. His aunt or his grandma or whatever is trying to set him up on a date. And we have Harper, who she's just taken over her aunt's bakery in town. And she gets set up on this date with him, and he actually stands her up. And then also his teenage son actually steals something from the bakery. And when Garrett discovers this, I mean, it is a bit of an attention ploy. He takes his son to the bakery and not only makes his son apologize, but he realizes that this gorgeous woman running this bakery is the woman that he stood up on his date. And he's horrified about it. But she is a really nice gal. That I sound like my grandma. She's a really nice lady, and she actually offers his son a way to pay her back by having him work for her for free for a weekend. And she's like, that'll cover the baked goods that you stole. And I love how close her and the son get. And she does give Garrett a second chance for their first date. And in this one, there is actually a old serial killer that is the drama in this one. And then her most recent release was Whispers and Wildfire. Oh, I love this cover. And this one is a second chance romance. So this is Luke Haven, and he actually owns a garage in town. And we have Melanie Andaloni, who they dated back in high school too. And now they have a bit of a frenemy situation going on. They love to give each other grief. It's actually pretty cute. And their families are still pretty close, because her family owns a small business. The Havens are all over the place. And so when she needs a job while she's in town, he needs a receptionist because his is having had a baby. And so they end up working together. And she actually has a stalker who has just gotten out of prison, who's now watching her. So this one, oh, I really like this one too. I think Temptation Trails is still my fave, but I really like this one. This one says, he'll save her from the nightmare in her past. What I think I love the most about this one, I say, is honestly how the stalker was written, because there are chapters from the stalker's point of view, and they were so well written. I've listened to the audios of all of these as well, and they're wonderful. They're really, really good. I love that series. So anyway, that's the most detailed I'll be with any of these, I promise. But that is a series that I think is perfect if you are wanting to, for anyone, of course, for anyone, I still recommend those very strongly. But just know, if you read books previously from her, there's not as much open door in them, but they're still pretty you feel the chemistry so well. And that's something I think she's cracked the case on, because just because they're going to be, semi-closed door books, she doesn't pull back on the intensity of their relationship or their chemistry. We just, they go under the covers at a certain point in it. Maybe that's what we call them, under the covers instead of behind the door. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Next up, I, of course, have to share a book from my author that I work for, Noel Adams. Now, Noel Adams in general, just to tell you, she does put a lot of sex scenes in most of her books, but she writes the type of sex that is still, it's not erotic, is what we'd say under the Noel Adams. She doesn't do closed door, but there are a lot of really basic positions. They're, very simple. Usually a little bit of dirty talk is the most that she puts in some of hers. So in general, I think she's a good author to read if you don't want super high heat. I think her books sit around there, but there usually is a good number of scenes anyway. But one of her most recent releases is a novella called In Flight. And the way that this one is structured mean that there were only a few scenes in it. It is also only 200 pages, but I thought this one was so cute. So this one, I'll just read what it says. And there's links to all these books down below if you want to check her out. So this one says, flying from Savannah to Boston every weekend for 2 months to help my sister with her upcoming wedding would be fine if it weren't for the obnoxious airplane guy. He has a job in Savannah for a few months and flies home to Boston every weekend. So he's always on my flights. Even that might be tolerable if he didn't always choose the seat right beside me. But he won't move, and neither will I. So now we're stuck, side by side, for flight after flight. After flight. So what if he's kind of attractive and softer than he pretends? His life is in Boston and mine is not. His career is his priority, and the happy, secure world I've worked hard to build for myself in Savannah is mine. So he's still obnoxious airplane guy to me, and no matter how often our paths might cross, that's all he can ever be. Until they happen to get snow. I don't think it's snowed in. I think it's like stormed in, basically. And yeah, this is really fun. There's lots of good banter. This is River and Isaac are their names. And yeah, it's dislike to love. She's an artist. He's in finance. And yeah, they get to know each other. So as I said, based on this format, a lot of the time they spend together is on the airplane. So it isn't until later on in the book when they get a chance to spend a night together that we get some of that. So yeah, I had a great time with this. And I mean, that's Noel Adams for you. One that is super popular that everyone says is super sexy and I think is more of a 2, okay? And that is Fourth Wing. Yep, I'm doing it. I'm popping the bubble. Okay, I'm doing it. You guys know, I talked about this in the fantasy book. People just get so uptight and either shun a book because there are some sex scenes in it, or they, get annoyed that there isn't anything when they hear it talked about so much. So Fourth Wing, I feel like I don't really have to describe it, but it does involve a dragon rider, a college. It involves a heroine who, she, never wanted to be a dragon rider. She wanted to be a scribe, and she gets thrust into this life. And there's also this very complex relationship with a rival rider there with Xaden, and we see her matched with a dragon, and there's just all the things. That's a worse explanation of Fourth Wing I've ever given, but there's a siren going off outside, and it's making me batty. Why is that going off? Is it the first Wednesday of the month? It's the first Wednesday of the month. They're testing our storm sirens. That's what that is. Okay. But anywho, this is one, to me, this sits at a 2. Even the future books in the series, they're at like a 2, 2.5. Okay. There is not a ton of boning going on in these books. I don't know why people say there's so much, but I guess if you are moving from YA fantasy to a book like this, it would feel like a lot. This is an adult romance. The characters are like new adult age, but like this is adult. So yeah, but to me, this is a low spice option. Okay. It's there. Maybe that's comforting to you. Maybe that annoys you. I don't know, but it is not an erotic fantasy as some people almost call it. Maybe it's because we're all a bit horny for Xaden. Some of us are. And so we are maybe picturing him more than he is on the page. I don't know. There are also horny dragons in that book. So just know that. That's a thing as well. Okay, then we have one, On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. This is a book I absolutely love. I was so happy to actually reread it, or I guess it would be last year at this point, and I annotated it that time around. I hadn't read it in quite a few years. But this is actually a reverse age gap, and it is actually a teacher and her student, hold on, who get stranded on an island together for multiple years. Okay, they're stranded on an island for a very long time. And when they first get stranded on this island, she's actually going to be his, she gets hired to be his tutor. He had childhood cancer and is just finally getting back to life. He's beaten the cancer. His name is TJ. Her name is Anna. And she's going to be traveling with the family for the summer to help him catch up to his grade, like during the summer. So he'll be caught up when it's time to go back. And so the parents had already taken off and they're flying together on a private plane to catch up. The plane crashes in the ocean and they get stranded alone. The pilot dies. They get stranded alone on this little island And what's interesting is that it happens, I can't remember if it says what year it is in the beginning of this. Let me see if it does. I don't think it does. But basically, I'll tell you, like, it happens pre 9/11 in here, I believe, if I'm right. So, like, they don't even know about that. And then that happening in the middle of them being lost, like, it was just a very bad time for it to happen to them. I think I've said that right, the day that it happens. Because it doesn't say the year, but either way, it's wild when this happens to them. It's crazy. So when they first get stranded, he is, I believe, 16 and she is, I think, 30 or 29 or something like that. Yeah, he's 16 and she's 30. And she's supposed to be his like English teacher. And they're stuck there for years. So truly nothing happens between these two for a long time. She's actually very careful about that. She doesn't know how long they're going to be there. And she's like, we need to keep propriety up, blah, blah, blah. But once you save each other's lives so many times and you're each other's only companion and you learn every little thing about the person, what else is there, you know? And so slowly something does grow between them. But this is a very low on like the heat side of things, though their connection and the things they survive together are so beautiful. I think it was a good choice of the author to not turn this into anything super raunchy because it is really about how they grow deeply to love each other. And we see both their time on the island and then when they return home, how the world will look at them. Specifically how they'll look at him versus how they'll look at her and what the situation unfolded. Okay, then we have one from Melanie Moreland here that I wanted to share. And that is A Simple Life. Okay, now this was a little standalone from her that I call it wholesome, sweet, and wonderful. So this is a small town farmer and a single mom, and she becomes his tenant, and they get off to a rough start really quickly, but he really likes her little girl, and they were so cute, and it just made this book kind of fly by. So there is some open door scenes in this one, but it doesn't take over the story. It's really about just them both giving love a second chance. She was previously had an abusive spouse, and so she's very wary, especially for how grumpy he starts it out. She's like, I don't have any time for that in my life. I believe she owns like a restaurant in town too. So yeah, they're just really sweet together. And this one isn't a super long book either. It's under 300 pages. So yeah, this is John and Quinn. And yeah, it was a good one. It says this, it says, a rugged farmer with a hidden heart of gold and a fearless single mom with her charming little girl. I mean, who wouldn't love it, y'all? Who wouldn't love it? Okay, then we have The Feud by Sawyer Bennett. Oh my gosh. I'm excited to bring this one back up again. I got off to a sour note with book 3 in this series, okay? And it has kind of tainted my love of recommending the books. But there's another book coming from this author that is going to be a prequel about the parents. And I'm actually really excited for that. And each one of these books does read pretty good as a standalone, I'd say. But The Feud, I'll never forget how much I loved reading The Feud when I did. And it definitely sits at about a 2, maybe less on my spice scale, because the focus of this book is almost equally on the relationship between the father and daughter. So in this one, we have the Blackburns and the Mardragons, okay? Now, our hero, Ethan, had a one-night stand with the daughter of the Mardragons, okay? And he was never told that he has a daughter who at the beginning of this book is 9 years old. And the mother has died of, I believe, like brain cancer. And Ethan gets told about his daughter. Now, the mother, who, again, totally didn't tell him he had a child. They lived in France this child's whole life. She waited to let Ethan know until she was fully, gone. It's in the will that he gets custody of the daughter. And this just puzzles everyone because she very much loved being with her mother and specifically her uncle, Gabriel, who also like lived in France part of the time. But she doesn't know her grandparents super well. They're pretty cold with her. But she really has been taught to hate the Blackburns, specifically by her grandparents. And so when Ethan gets given custody of her, he really doesn't understand why. And it's not that he wouldn't want to support a daughter or know her, but A, this child's been raised to hate him, and B, he doesn't want anything to do with the Margarets. And now this girl, she has or will have a control, like a equal partnership in the wine business that the Margarets run. And so he is her legal guardian and also in control of it. And so there's just a whole lot happening. It's a very high stakes battle between these two families. Sylvie, yeah. And Sylvie really doesn't want to stay with him. Now, there's reasons why the mother doesn't want her family to be the one fully raising Sylvie. It was a tough life to grow up in the Margarete home. And it's strange because Ethan only ever thought of her as an enemy. They literally had sex one time. He's really never thought of her again since that. It was a drunken night. And now to discover he has a child who hates him, like, it's a lot to happen, right? So then we have Marcy, okay? And Marcy is actually Sylvie's new principal. And she is a champion for helping Sylvie acclimate to everything. And so when Sylvie and Ethan are actually really going at it, because what happens is that the judge does honor the will and gives Ethan custody. And he says, we're going to reevaluate this. But Sylvie, I really want you to give your father a chance because there's a reason your mother did this, right? This judge is actually very fair. But Sylvie is just planning to bide her time with him and then say she wants to be with her grandparents, But Marcy becomes close with Sylvie as she really tries to help her. And she actually becomes a bit of a bridge between Ethan and Sylvie. And that is how Marcy ends up getting to know Ethan more. And so she is a very kind woman, and she's a great advocate for Sylvie and all the children that she principals. Like, it was really beautiful to see. And this is just a really quieter book in regards to the romance, but yet I really believed it too. I really believed it. And as we see Ethan, who is the eldest of the Blackburn children, he's the one in charge now. His parents are actually retired, though they're still alive, which that's why I'm really excited for the prequel, is these parents aren't dead and gone or anything, they're still there. And we also learn that another Mardragon sibling, Gabriel, may also have his sights set on a Blackburn. And that is what the Forbidden is about. So anyway, I rambled all over the place with this one. I really love the audios for these. Very excellently narrated. But the books are really fun too. And yeah, their romance is softer and quieter, but I gave this book 5 stars when I read it, because even though the romance, it takes a while before we even have Marcy in there, I loved the relationship and how it changes between Sylvie and Ethan. I love how supportive his family is. I love how they immediately welcome Sylvie in and just want to get to know her and love her. And I had a great time with this one. And I think it's a really good one that I didn't even miss that there wasn't a ton of erotic things, because I still believed the relationship between Marcy and Ethan, and I believe that it would be strong and that it would last for sure. Okay, next I want to share the one that this is the only completely closed door book I have here, right? So I shared Claire Kingsley is what we'd call maybe under the covers. The spice in this one, there isn't any, because this one is a more faith-based one. But I read this book for my Patreon back in September because it was recommended by Crystal and everybody voted for me to do this one. And I was absolutely moved by it so much, and I'm so glad I read it. But yeah, this one, I think if you are not a Christian and you don't want to read faith-based, but you still like Scottish romances, you like Highlander, you like historical, I think you'll still enjoy this, because the faith part of it doesn't completely take over this book. And there are actually plenty of historicals where faith is talked about in them, because that was a big part of their lives, the tradition and the religion. So I just want to put that out there. If what I'm about to say about this book, you think, oh, I don't know, I think you should still give it a try if you like the other aspects, because I do not feel that it took over the story. Okay. So this one was an arranged marriage between Callum and Lady Catherine. And Callum's father is very cruel and mean, and he pushes Callum into this arranged marriage with the promise that he will do a certain thing. And it was all a trick. So his father deceived him. And so even though Callum, having met Catherine now and actually likes her and is like, you know what, my dad's forcing me into this, but we can both like each other, he leaves her right after their marriage night to punish his dad. Not to punish her, but to punish his dad. But in doing so, he absolutely punishes her and abandons her there. Just completely abandons her there. And so now it's 4 years later, and Callum is ready to piece his life back together and see if Kate will give him a second chance. Only she's really hardened her heart, and he comes home to a surprise that he has a daughter from that one night that they were together. And so she's very cold to him, and she's very much doesn't want to let him in. And he may be her husband, he may be the father of her child, but he has been faithless and, disrespected her to get back at his father. What does that even mean? You don't have to live to spite your father. And when he comes home and sees what he's left behind, he really needs to give it a go. He's got to find a way to grovel. He's got to find a way to prove that he deserves her and to earn her back. And I love this. This has a great grovel. But again, this was very emotional. It was very beautiful. I loved the scenes where Catherine is angry. And this isn't a petty thing or he abandoned her. She moved to Scotland to be there, to be his wife. And he not only slept with her and then was gone, but he never even really checked in or did anything. He just bolted. And, in this case, he left a child behind. But even if he hadn't, what did she do to deserve it, So they're really, truly starting at square one. But we also have the heart of a daughter in mind, too. So Heart in the Highlands is absolutely beautiful. And I think if you love historical romance, you will like this. I truly was moved. I cried multiple times. I think this was a beautiful examination of forgiveness. And again, that is not solely a faith-based thing, right? I, of course, am a little biased. I don't show this tattoo much, but I do have a tattoo, actually, that says forgiveness. This is my first tattoo I got 12 years ago at this point, which is crazy. But we all have to decide what we forgive and what we don't in our lives. It is really true that sometimes the bitterness of holding on to something hurts us more than it hurts that person. One of my favorite quotes ever is hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's just not how it works. But there is also the other coin then, because it's okay, well, if she forgives, does she have to give him another chance? Because she can forgive him and let him be in their daughter's life and still say, we're going to just live as, strangers. So anyway, it's a really beautiful one. This one is completely closed door, but I still found it deeply romantic. I cried real tears onto the pages of that book, and it has not left me since I've read it. Truly, it was beautiful. So I do highly recommend if you like historicals, or if you do like faith-based books. I know some of you do. You've talked to me about it, but I think you should neither exclude nor turn away from it if you like those things, because I think you can greatly. And speaking of books that I read for Patreon, I have another one of those that I did as well, which typically for either of these books, that one or this one. If you would like full in-depth review of those, which I don't generally review them on my channel, but for both of these, it's been a long time since I read them, so it's okay. I do have detailed reviews for all of the, what is it now, like 30, almost 40 books that I've reviewed exclusively for Patreon. You get access to all of them at the Swooning for You tier. So anyway, another one with low spice, and this one has low spice because of the scenario that they're in, which you will see here in a moment. This one is called Ghost Walk by Cassandra Ganon. And of course, this one was read for October of last year. And this is about Grace Riviera, who is a trained crime scene investigator, but she has now been cursed with seeing ghosts. And so that has made being a crime scene investigator extremely difficult. Okay, because where do the ghosts hang out? Usually where traumatic things have happened. So she ends up needing to get another job because she's going a bit crazy being a crime scene investigator. And so she gets a job in the tourist town of Harrisonburg, Virginia, working like ghostly tours. Because it's like, you know what? Maybe I will make use of this, of actually seeing ghosts here. And so she runs into a ghost there named Captain James Rorden, who was unjustly hanged for murder on July 4th, 1789. He is Scottish, and his name is Jamie, okay? I'm just saying, there's also time travel, okay? This author, I would say, knew what they were doing, okay? This is a standalone book, only about 300 pages, but Grace ends up going back in time, and she shows up at these places that Jamie's been, and she gets the opportunity to help actually solve the murder that Jamie was hanged for and possibly change the future in doing so, if we can stop it. So yeah, so she's helping him set it right, and they're falling in love with each other, but he is a ghost. So you will have to see how they're able to do things in that one. But it happens. But this was really, it was fun. I wouldn't full on call it a comedy because we are solving a mystery. But I would say, like, if you liked Ghost Whisperer, you know, I wouldn't fully go and say, like, if you like Outlander, try this out. Because sure, it has time travel and that. And his name is Jamie and he's Scottish. But, like, it's not the same. But there are definitely moments where I was like, this author likes Outlander. I mean, you certainly can see that. But also, who doesn't? You know, who doesn't? Okay, the last one I want to mention is actually another one that I think is almost completely closed door. I forgot about that. And it's maybe because I don't remember this one as well. But this is called Worth the Risk by B. Borges. And I did not know that this one was going to be closed door because it was definitely not sold that way. Like, its tagline was a swoony, kick your feet in the air, second chance romance. It didn't say it was a sweet romance or I mean, I don't like using this word, but it didn't say it was clean or closed door. So I had no idea. That does not make it bad. It just means that I feel like it was false advertised because how it was talked about, I thought it would be. And, you know, I just don't think that tricking people with that is a super great way to do things. Like, just put that it is a closed door. Because again, as we talked about in here, there are people who will then read it because of that, you know, that might not have, if they don't know. So this author was actually a debut with this one. They have the second one in the series coming out, or it might already be out. I don't know. But this one is about Winnie Parker, who is a relationship girl through and through. She just likes them to come with an expiration date. So between managing her anxiety and opening her bakery, Winnie's come to the conclusion she's not meant to have the kind of love she reads about in romance novels. And then there's Rhett Holloway, who comes back into her life. He's 6'4", tattooed, solid muscle, Greek god on skates. He's a hockey player, and he's also moved back to their small town, and he lives right next door. So she had feelings for him 8 years ago, and now they're possibly getting a second chance. So Rhett, he has now retired, and he's left a trail of broken hearts behind him, it says. It's all he's known is playing hockey, but now he has an injury that ended his career at 33. So now he's going to be a hockey coach in Silverthorne at the high school. And so these two have great banter together. This was a friends to lovers, and they definitely fall in love again very quick. There's lots of support from their families. It was very cute. So again, this one was sweet, cute, and just know going in that it is, I believe, mostly closed door for this. And again, let me double check. Yeah. So yeah, it was really sweet. And again, if you have the proper, you know, mindset going in, I think you will really enjoy it. And also, this is another small author to support. Let me double check here. Yes. Worth the Rush, it looks like, is out now. Yes, this came out in December, so I missed that because I didn't try to read this one just because I didn't think it was quite my style, but it looks like this one is also a like 1 on the spice scale for people. So good to know. But anywho, those are some recommendations from me that are 2.5 or less. Most of these were 2 to less on the spice scale, but all still books that I really enjoyed. If you're looking to maybe like take a break from some heavier hitting ones, or you're looking for maybe some palate cleansers in between some really spicy books, or you yourself just don't like to read all of that all the time, these are some that I recommend. Feel free to share some others down below with people. I have made this video at least 1 or 2 other times, so I'll link those up there if you want to see them. Again, have no fear if you like it hotter. This is why I had to go back quite a ways to find recs for all of these. I tend to like my books to have 3 to 4 on the spice scale. But every once in a while, I come across ones like these where I'm still like, this was good. This was great. So I hope you enjoy those. And thank you so much for watching, friends. We'll see you next time. Bye.